At first glance, Up Helly Aa looks like a surviving Viking ritual from 1,000 years ago. A longship, a chief in armor, almost 1,000 flames moving through a dark northern town, and a ship sacrificed to fire in the middle of winter. But the real twist is even more interesting. This famous Shetland fire festival is not an untouched relic from the Viking Age. It is a carefully built community tradition, shaped in modern times, refined over generations, and powered almost entirely by local volunteers. And that is exactly what makes it so compelling. What you are watching in Lerwick in 2026 is not just a spectacle of fire. It is a town performing its memory, its humor, its craft, its endurance, and its identity in the coldest, darkest part of the year. Source. The setting matters as much as the flames. Lerwick, the capital of Shetland, sits far to the north of mainland Scotland, where winter light is brief, the wind comes hard off the sea, and granite buildings hold on to the cold. That landscape gives Up Helly Aa its visual power. By day, the streets feel compact and practical, lined with stone buildings, shop fronts, ferry points, and public squares. By night, the same streets become a stage. The Market Cross, the Esplanade, Commercial Street, the Town Hall, the ferry terminal, and the King George V playing field all become part of one long film of movement and fire. In 2026, that transformation is led by Geyser Jarl Lyndon Nicholson, whose long-awaited turn at the front gives this year's festival an extra layer of human story before a single torch is lit. Source. To understand why this festival feels so ancient, you have to go back to what existed before it. According to historical records, Lerwick's winter celebrations became louder and rougher after the Napoleonic Wars, when returning sailors and soldiers brought new habits and rowdy holiday behavior back with them. By the early 19th century, the town's Yuletide period could mean horns, drums, masks, drinking, shouting, and even gunfire. Around the 1840s, burning tar barrels became part of the chaos. Rival groups dragged them through Lerwick's narrow streets, and the whole thing could get dangerous very quickly. For local authorities and many townspeople, the old custom was messy, smoky, and hard to control. But instead of disappearing completely, that energy was reshaped. And this is where the real story begins. Source. Around the 1870s, a group of young men in Lerwick began redesigning the winter celebration. They changed the timing, pushing it toward the end of January. They added elaborate disguises known locally as guising. They introduced the torchlit procession. They gave the event the name Up Helly Aa, and gradually they began experimenting with Norse themes. That Viking layer did not appear all at once. Historical accounts suggest the first signs came in the late 19th century, while the longship, or galley, arrived later. And the Geyser Jarl, the symbolic Viking chief, did not become part of the story until 1906. The full Geyser Jarl squad as an annual feature only settled in after the First World War. So the festival's Viking identity is real in a cultural sense, but historically it is a modern invention built with intention rather than inherited whole. Source that matters because Up Helly Aa is not celebrated as a religious ceremony and not as a historical reenactment in the strict museum sense. It is celebrated as a public expression of Shetland's Norse connections, winter resilience, local humor, craftsmanship, and collective effort. Some official descriptions note echoes of older northern customs: fire, feasting, disguise, midwinter release, and memories of Norse saga culture. But the event you see in Lerwick today is really about a living community choosing to keep a dramatic tradition alive. The ship is built to burn. The costumes are built to impress. The process is built to involve people. And the timing is perfect. In a place where winter can feel long and dark, Up Helly Aa turns that darkness into the raw material of a communal performance. Source. And who exactly celebrates it? Not just one elite group at the front, and not just the tourists who arrive with cameras. Up Helly Aa belongs to committee members, galley builders, torch makers, musicians, hall hosts, cooks, costume makers, school children, care home residents, families waiting along the route, and the squads who spend months planning performances for the night ahead. The Lerwick committee is made up of volunteers, and becoming Geyser Jarl is not a casual honor. One recent Jarl described joining the committee in 2008 and waiting 16 years for his turn. In 2026, Lyndon Nicholson reached the role after 18 years of service, making him both the oldest serving Jarl in the event's history and the one who waited longer than anyone before him. That detail says a lot about the culture of this festival. It is built on patience, service, and long memory. Source. Preparations begin long before January, and for many locals, that hidden buildup is half the story. Months of work go into the galley, the torches, the shields, the helmets, the axes, the themed suits, the hall decorations, the food, the route planning, the rehearsed acts, and the logistics of moving hundreds of people through town on an exact schedule. The Jarl Squad in particular can spend more than a year working on their suits. Metalwork may be commissioned, but much of the making and assembling is done by the squad itself, often over repeated evening sessions through the darker months. There is also a culture of secrecy. One of the biggest annual mysteries is what the geyser Jarl and squad will actually look like. In 2026, the reveal carried a wolf motif with gray tunics and trousers, red cloaks, black breastplates and gaiters, and detailed axes shaped with claw-like finishing. Even the suits tell a story before the procession does. Source. That preparation spills into the wider town as well. Local businesses know the season is coming. Museums mount special events. Craft and food markets build around the fire festival period. Halls are cleaned, stocked, and staffed. Kitchens prepare winter food that can keep people going through a sleepless night. Roasted mutton and tatty soup, a classic Shetland favorite, becomes more than food here. It becomes fuel for a town-wide endurance test. Bannocks, snacks, drinks, and shared plates appear in the background of the night's performances. And they matter because Up Helly Aa is not a 90-minute show. It is a 24-hour relay of movement, hosting, and social energy. Yet most people never notice this part, because what the outside world remembers is the fire. What locals remember just as strongly is the labor that makes the fire possible. Source. When the day finally arrives, it starts shockingly early. At 6 in the morning, the Up Helly Aa bill, or proclamation, is unveiled at the market cross under torchlight. Even in that first moment, the festival announces its personality. The bill is not solemn scripture. It is satire, local commentary, and civic theater. By 8:15 in the morning, the Jarl Squad sets off from the Islesburg Community Center on King Harold Street. This is the first real public sight of the year's chief and squad moving through the town in full form. The route takes them through key points in Lerwick, including the toll clock area and the Royal British Legion, before the galley itself becomes part of the daytime visual field. Morning light in Shetland is hard, pale, and low in winter, and that gives the first march a different feeling from the night procession. The spectacle is visible, but the town is still close enough to touch. Source. By late morning, the festival is fully in public view. The squad reaches the market cross again, sings in praise of the bill, and continues to the Bressay Ferry Terminal, where official photos are taken and families gather. This is one of the lesser-known emotional centers of the day. Before the inferno, before the crowds swell into the thousands, there is this quieter phase where children, relatives, and longtime residents see the Jarl Squad up close in daylight. The armor is no longer just dramatic. You can notice the handwork. The texture of the leather, the metal plates, the painted shields, the stitching in the cloaks, the color choices, the theme. In 2026, the wolf imagery stands out strongly here. It is sharp, coherent, and unmistakably local in its making. The mythic look is powerful, but the craftsmanship behind it may be even more impressive. Source. Then the festival takes a turn that outsiders often do not expect. The Geyser Jarl and squad attend a civic reception at Lerwick Town Hall, where the Jarl is traditionally given the freedom of the town for 24 hours. After that come community visitations, schools, hospital spaces, eventide homes, supported living settings, and later a public appearance at Shetland Museum. And this is exactly what makes the festival different. The people in the most spectacular costumes do not remain sealed inside a parade. They carry the festival outward through the community in daylight, making sure all generations can take part. Children see them at close range. Older residents who may never stand at the freezing roadside at night still get their moment with the Jarl Squad. So the event is not only theatrical, it is also social outreach, local duty, and shared ownership. Source. By late afternoon, the tone starts to shift. The junior procession begins first, with its own smaller galley and younger participants moving toward the King George V playing field. That detail matters because it shows how the tradition reproduces itself. Up Helly Aa is not surviving only because older generations remember it. It survives because younger people are gradually taught how to enter it, how to wear it, how to move through it, and how to care about it. As daylight drains from Lerwick, crowds begin to build more heavily along the evening route. Street corners fill. Windows become viewing points. The cold becomes sharper. People know the real visual payoff is coming, but the wait is part of the atmosphere. Shetland winter does not rush. The darkness arrives slowly, and the festival uses that darkness like a stage curtain. Source. At 7:30 in the evening, everything changes in a matter of seconds. A signal rocket bursts above Lerwick Town Hall. The streetlights are dimmed, and the torches are lit. Almost 1,000 geysers, shoulder-flaming posts wrapped with paraffin-soaked material, and the procession begins to move. This is the image most viewers around the world know. Fire pouring down dark streets, the band striking up, smoke and sparks climbing into the winter air, and the geyser jarl at the front, standing at the helm of a doomed galley. But scale is what makes this moment hard to understand until you see it. The line of fire can stretch like a living river through the town. Spectators feel the heat from the pavement. The procession moves for around half an hour, and the whole thing is so carefully organized that even at peak intensity, it feels controlled, almost choreographed. Source. The visual contrast is extraordinary. Only the Jarl squad wears Viking dress. That is important. The rest of the squads, roughly 45 of them with around 20 members each, appear in other costumes, sometimes elaborate, sometimes comic, sometimes topical, sometimes absurd. So the night is not one flat wall of Viking imagery. It is a layered cultural mix. The disciplined Norse front rank, the mass of geysers behind them, the brass band, the smoke, the torchlight, the spectators, and the architecture of Lerwick reflecting the flames. In 2026, the wolf-themed Jarl squad stands out even more strongly against that background, with red cloaks, gray garments, black armor details, helmets, shields, and themed axes carrying a unified look. The result is both historical in mood and unmistakably modern in design sense. It is one of the reasons the festival feels so cinematic on camera. Source. And then comes the central act. The procession reaches the King George V playing field, a space closed to the general public during the burn itself. The galley enters the site. The geysers circle it in fire. Another signal sounds. The geyser jarl leaves the ship. A bugle call cuts through the night. Then the torches are hurled. This is the payoff that gives Up Helly Aa its global image. But the meaning is richer than the obvious drama. The ship has been built for months and is destroyed in minutes. The beauty of the object is real, but so is its destiny. In documentary terms, it is the purest visual symbol of the festival. Craft, discipline, performance, and impermanence meeting at exactly the same point. Thousands watch from outside. Those closest feel the moment as heat, smoke, brightness, and sound, not just as a picture. Source. But there's another side to this story, and many visitors miss it completely. The burning of the galley is not the end of Up Helly Aa night. In a way, it is the halfway mark. After the outdoor climax, squads move into the halls across Lerwick, where performances continue until breakfast time the next morning. More than 40 squads rotate through 11 halls, staging acts that can include comedy, dance, local satire, pop culture parody, and carefully rehearsed routines. This is where the festival's public fire meets its private social engine. Hosts and hostesses keep the halls running, music continues, guests dance Shetland reels, food comes out. Roasted mutton and tatty soup, along with bannocks and other winter staples, keeps people moving. And the mood changes from epic spectacle to communal release. Fire may draw the cameras, but the halls reveal the festival's beating heart. Source. This is also where a surprising truth emerges. Up Helly Aa may look like a festival about Vikings, but it is just as much a festival about performance, local wit, and endurance. Every squad prepares an act. Every act takes rehearsal. Every visit to a hall requires timing, movement, transport, hosting, and social energy. One geyser Jarl described the day as the fastest 28 hours of his life, starting before dawn and not ending until well into the following morning. That gives you a sense of what participation really means. It is not a quick costume appearance. It is an all-night obligation. Historically, the halls replaced older forms of open house hospitality, and over time they became one of the main reasons the event feels less like a tourist performance and more like a town operating at full communal intensity. The fire outside is legendary. The stamina inside is just as remarkable. Source. There are other hidden details that help explain why the festival matters so much. One is that Up Helly Aa was originally an abstinence-era event in official spirit, even though the modern halls are famous for sociability. Another is that the festival, once overwhelmingly shaped by young working-class men, has continued to evolve. The official history notes that from 2023, geysers were able to manage their squads without gender restrictions, a sign that even a deeply rooted local tradition can change while still preserving its structure. Another lesser-known fact is that there are multiple Up Helly Aa across Shetland between January and March, each with its own character. But Lerwick remains the oldest and largest. So when people call this the Viking Fire Festival, they are really talking about one event within a wider island culture of winter fire festivals, local variation, and community-led identity. Source. In modern Shetland, that matters more than ever. Up Helly Aa is a tourism draw, yes, and a powerful visual brand for the islands in the middle of winter. The evening procession is even streamed to global audiences, turning a town event into a worldwide media moment. But the deeper value is local. It gives residents a winter focus. It creates reasons to build, sew, rehearse, cook, host, plan, and gather. It gives younger generations a route into a shared story. It keeps practical skills alive, from costume making to woodwork, to musical performance, to event organization. It activates museums, exhibitions, food fairs, local businesses, and transport links during the darkest season. And perhaps most importantly, it offers a place like Lerwick a way to present itself not as remote or marginal, but as culturally self-confident and unforgettable. Source. By the time the night gives way to early Wednesday morning, the public flames are gone, the galley is ash, the bands have played for hours, and the town is running on memory, soup, laughter, and exhaustion. That is when Up Helly Aa becomes easiest to understand. It is not just about spectacle and not just about history. It is about what a community chooses to build together, destroy together, celebrate together, and carry forward together. In 2026, with Lyndon Nicholson finally taking the role after years of waiting, the wolf-themed Jarl Squad, the torchlit river through Lerwick, the burning ship, and the all-night halls all come together as one complete northern drama. And when you see that final glow fading over Lerwick, what stays with you is not only the fire, it is the people who made the fire mean something. Source.